I'm Julie Herman of J Bear Quilts, and welcome back to the Night Sky Sew Along. This week, we are going to work on sewing triangle units, following the directions in page 8 of your pattern. Let's get started. This is all listed on the top of page 8 in your pattern. Once you've gathered all the pieces, begin with the half triangles. Here I have right half triangles of background and left half triangles of one of my feature fabrics. I have my machine set to a scant 1/4 inch seam. A scant 1/4 inch seam is just one thread over of a 1/4 inch. It accounts for the fabric that will get eaten up in the seam allowance so that my piece will measure perfectly once my seam is sewn. I'm using a medium gray Aurifil thread. 2600 is my favorite. It tends to blend in well with everything. If you are piecing with things that are predominantly blue or black or red, you may want to choose a thread color that will blend in well with the fabrics that you are using. Now I'm just going to go ahead, put these two together, right sides together, and sew my scant 1/4 inch seam. Now you could pin these if you like, but I find that that's not necessary at this stage, especially when I'm only working with two pieces that when put together are the exact same size, but you do what you prefer. You want to just make sure they're perfectly on top of each other, so I'll usually just slide the one over till they line up and go ahead and sew. Now I have my right half triangles of one of my accent fabrics and my left half triangles of my background, and I'm going to repeat the same steps to piece these together. Once you've sewn all of your pieces, go ahead and press them open. This is important because there will be multiple points intersecting later on, and this will help you as best as possible to get things to lay flat. I suggest finger pressing and then using a seam roller, and then we'll go over to my iron and I will press these flat with my iron before beginning the next step. I'm over at my iron and I'm going to go ahead and press these pieces that I have finger pressed. And a quick note, pressing is up and down, like this. Ironing is back and forth. We want to make sure that we're pressing and not ironing so that we don't stretch our pieces. You can do down and a little wiggle, but you don't want to push because we do have a lot of bias here and we don't want to stretch it. Now that I have these pressed, the next step is to add in my diamond to create my triangle units. You will use diamonds from the same color grouping, but the alternating colors, so not the two that you've used here. So in my case, it'll be this one and this one. I've chosen to mix pinks and oranges. You might be working with 4 blues, 4 purples, so forth and so on. So go ahead and match a diamond that is not the same colors. And we're going to start by piecing one pieced triangle to a diamond. And this is where I mentioned if you have done previous patterns, you might be tempted to cut the points off of the diamond, but it's not needed here as this is not notched. So we're going to go ahead and flip this piece onto this piece and line up those points. And it'll line up all the way along here. The flat edge will line up here as well. And then this point will overhang, and this will measure, if everything is pieced accurately so far, 1/4 inch in is where that valley is. So we're going to start up here and we're going to sew down to that valley with our same scant 1/4 inch that we used to piece these. I'm going to go ahead and repeat that with another diamond. Again, line this up. And it can be easy to mix things up when you start going a little too quick. You want to make sure that you don't put this one, you don't have your accent fabric touching the point. You always want your accent fabric touching the bottom, like this. If you put your pieces like this, you're going to end up with the diagram on the bottom of page 8 that has the X in it to show you a mistake. I've done it. It can happen to all of us when we start to move too quick, but you want to make sure that your point up here, you always start with background fabric, not your feature fabric. So again, take this one, line it up. And continue this process until you have sewn all of your pieces that have this color to your center diamonds. Now we have this, and we're going to go ahead and press this seam open just as we pressed these seams open. I'm back at my iron again, and I'm going to go ahead and press these seams. Quick reminder, pressing is up and down. We don't want to stretch any of our bias pieces. We just want to give this a good press before we go ahead and add on the next pieced triangle. Now that we have this pressed, it's time to go ahead and add the other pieced triangle up here. And we should have used all of these, so we shouldn't make the mistake of having these accidentally over here. But a good double check is that you always want to have all background fabric at the point of your diamond that is out. So we're going to go ahead and sew this piece onto this piece, and it's easiest to do if we rotate this around and flip this right sides onto here. And we're going to go ahead and use this dog ear from this piece to help us align this piece properly. So we're going to put that dog ear right on top, that point. And then we're going to have this point overhanging here, just similar to what we had on the other one. And that's 1/4 inch in. So that valley down to this valley, if we sew valley to valley, should have a perfect scant 1/4 inch seam. Get another one. Make sure that we've got our background fabric. Go ahead and put them to get right sides together. Line that up. And we're going to continue to repeat that until we've done it with all of them. I'm going to go ahead and take this first one off so we can see how it looks. There we go. So I'm going to go ahead and head on over to my pressing station and press this after I have sewn all of my triangle units. Now that I have these pieced, it's time to go ahead and press them. And just like I did with the other pieces, I'm going to go ahead and use my seam roller first to roll that seam open, and then come back with my iron. I often use steam. I don't have it on right now because it'll fog up the camera and it's a little too loud when recording. Steam is a preference. If you like to use it, I say go for it. If you are not a fan, that's okay too. Again, we want to just up and down press. And there we go. So we'll continue that process with the rest of our triangle units until we have them all pressed. Thanks for tuning in here today. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to like it, share your comments, and subscribe. You can also turn on notifications so that you'll receive an alert whenever I publish a new video. We'd love to see your night sky triangle pieces. Please share them with us on social media and use the hashtag #NightSkyQuilt so that we can see what you're working on. Thanks again, and we'll see you here next week to work on sewing our triangle units into half blocks.